back to another edition of Crafting and Crime Daily. If you're new to the channel, welcome. This is the show where I recap live trials. They apparently started another new trial today. I don't think I'm going to get to it. This one is just kind of consuming me. That's the buzzword for today, consume. Every single one of Michael Turney's kids has said that he was consumed when he was consumed with finding Alissa. But he's on trial for murdering Alissa Turney, his stepdaughter, back in 2001. So this is the state of Arizona versus Michael Turney. Yeah. Haven't heard a stitch of evidence, not a stitch of evidence that would support a conviction for murder by Michael Turney. But yesterday I said, Sarah, I talked about recapping the testimony of Sarah. And I was wondering what podcast, because she said, I'm a podcaster. So I looked her up. She has a podcast called Voices for Justice. So if you want to check that out, it is on Apple TV or Apple Podcasts. I did not find an episode where she talks about her sister. I mean, in depth, like the in-depth stuff. I found a ton of other podcasts that talk about the case of Alissa Turney, including one that I got some stunning information off of. So I wanted to talk about that today. We're going to get to the testimony that occurred on day 3. We are still in the layperson phase. It seems to me like the prosecution is going to be putting on every single one of the children. And yesterday I said 5. It was 6. Sorry, I don't do math. Yeah. So it was the 3 boys from Michael's previous marriage, John and Alissa and Sarah. So 6 kids. The boys grew up. They grew up pretty much not separately from the girls, but by the time the girls were, preteen, teenagers, they were out of the house. So yesterday they put on John, who was Alyssa's brother by his, like they had the same mom, different fathers. Now, they also put on, who was the other one? James Turney, who was Alyssa's stepbrother, but they didn't share a mother or a father. James was Michael Turney's son. His mother was out of the picture. So in any case, what did I learn? Well, a lot. So Michael Turney, and I don't think the jury is going to hear any of this. Yes, and I loved your comments, by the way, yesterday. Thank you for commenting and letting me know what you think of this so far. So when the police decided that they were going to look into the disappearance of Alissa Turney, it was not until 7 years after she goes missing. She ran away. 7 years later, they decide, hey, we're going to investigate this. So they get a search warrant for Michael Turney's home. And what they're looking for in particular is any video, because they found out that he videotapes, the carport, that entrance that they always use to go in and out of the house, and that he had this secret tape video recorder in the living room where he would watch Alissa. And on one occasion, he watched her making out with one of her managers at Jack in the Box. So apparently, he's going to be testifying as well. This trial's going to last a while, I think. So they get the search warrant there, and they're also looking for phone calls. Because everyone's saying that he told them that he got a call from Alissa from California. So they knew that he was a gun enthusiast. So they enlisted the help of the SWAT team, and they waited for him to leave his house because they didn't want to like knock on the door and or force themselves into his house because they were afraid about the guns. So they just waited for him to exit the house. So they wait a while, and sure enough, he leaves the house. When he left the house, and he had 2 pistols, 7 magazines filled with ammo, and a knife. Now, who walks around like that? Like, he didn't know there was a SWAT team out there. He's just walking around with 2 pistols, 7 magazines, and a knife. So they were absolutely right in their call to just kind of wait. So they take him into custody, and they go in to execute the search warrant and look for the things that I talked about earlier. Here's what they actually found. Oh my God, you're not going to believe it. 19 high caliber assault weapons, a whole bunch of illegal silencers, 26 pipe bombs, and a 98-page manifesto in which he describes how he's going to use these bonds. Now, here was the name of this manifesto. Oh my God. The story of a madman martyr lost in an obsession for justice and closure in the wrong place and at the wrong time to see things better not witnessed. What? First of all, whose day was it to read the manifesto? Okay. Draw straws. Okay, you get to read this 96-page manifesto. Anyway, within this manifesto, the other thing they were after with that search warrant is a DNA sample and handwriting samples. But they found a whole lot more than what they bargained for. So his plan was he was going to he had a protocol list on this in this manifesto. But first I want to just tell you this was the largest cache of weapons ever found in a home in Arizona, like or at least in Phoenix. Pretty incredible. So here was his protocol list. Number one, he was going to throw a firecracker over the wall. Now, over the wall, what? The Union, the Union. He was going to go to the Union Hall or wherever it is that they conduct business, the IBEW, International Brothers of Electrical Workers. He was going to go to their Union Hall, and he was going to throw a firecracker over the wall. Then he was going to prepare the van for fire by putting lighter fluid on papers. Then he was going to drive to the Union fence, set off some smoke bombs, light a fire. Then he was going to drive through the fence. He was going to shoot the truck gas tank. Then he was going to shoot 100 rounds into the door or anyone that was in the area. He was just going to take them out. And then he was going to walk the truck. So when they were still doing this search, they also found his van in the backyard. The van was filled with propane tanks, tires, papers. There was a rock next to the gas pedal, which is how apparently he was going to walk the truck, or I don't know what he meant by walk the truck, but how he was going to get the van through the fence. He was just putting the rock on the gas pedal, and the wheels were packed with chlorine sticks. That's pretty incredible. Oh my God. Then there was in this van, there was a bag with a wig, makeup, and face paint that he said was for Halloween. He also had gas mask with canisters, chemical suits, earplugs, a bulletproof vest, and a wallet with $4,000 in it. This man is crazy. What? Yeah. So on March of 2020, March of 2010, after a lot of, he was arrested, um, faced a whole bunch of charges. He opted to fire his public defender and represent himself during the proceedings, during which he filed motion after motion to recuse the judge. Very litigious guy. His whole life he was litigious. At one point, his daughter, and I don't know if it was Alissa or Sarah, told her friends, when they said, "What does your dad do for a living?" She said, "Oh, he files lawsuits." Yeah. So he did everything he could to stall this case regarding the weapons. But then he ultimately, in March of 2010, pled to unlawful possession of unregistered destructive devices. Unregistered destructive devices. Yeah. So he was sentenced to 10 years, followed by 3 years of supervision. Now, the family had been told that the police planned to arrest him for the murder of Alissa after he served his sentence for this possession of these firearms. That didn't happen. He gets out of jail, they don't arrest him. So the other thing I learned about him was he claimed that, and this has come out during the testimony, he claimed that two people from the IBEW, and he named them specifically, are the ones that murdered Alissa. Then, now the jury knows that. What they don't know is that during an interview, he claims that he killed these men, that he found out where they were, he approaches them and he kills them. And they claim that they murdered Alissa and her body's out in some desert somewhere. Well, when you looked into these two men, both these men died from unrelated unrelated to being murdered before Alissa went missing. So this guy's just weird, very, very weird. So from what I could tell, he was an electrical worker back in the 70s. And then right around 1978, 79, he had some kind of accident where he fell off a ladder. And he's been disabled since then and just holds this grudge against this union. Yeah, just really nuts. Okay. So let's get to the testimony, the continuing testimony of John. Now, John is the son who Barbara had brought into the marriage. So she has her son in California. She moves to Phoenix. She gets pregnant by another guy with Alissa's father, has Alissa. Then she marries Michael. He brings his three boys into the marriage. And then they have Sarah together. So John, from California, John, he apparently was the closest to Alissa. And he testified that he left home at 17, that he had grown tired of his father's rules, as most 17-year-olds are. That's an age where they want to flex their independence. I remember my daughter, oh my God, boy, I'm not going to go there. she wanted to flex her independence. And he said, Alissa was a lot like me. And I suspect that that's what was going on. She was growing tired of his rules. He described her as carefree, open sexually, to the point where at one point in the summer before her junior year, she disappeared on the last day of the junior year. In the summer before her junior year, she lived with John and Mike, not dad Mike, but son Mike Seth. She lived with them for a couple of weeks because John and Mike thought she needed a break from Sarah and her father. It's known that she smoked marijuana. So apparently while she was living with John and Mike, she had sex with one of the neighbors, a young neighbor. Oh my God, this girl, carefree. With respect to the cameras, he said that Sarah, she knew how to get out of the house without being seen by a camera. So then the prosecution finished up their portion of the testimony, and then the defense comes in and they're reading off statements that he made during his police interview 15 years ago. Do you remember saying this? And or do you remember this? And he'd say, I don't remember that. Well, I'm not asking you if you remember it, but I'm asking you if that's the statement you made. It was just weird. So apparently he was told by his father that his father had spent $50,000 trying to find Alissa. That finding Alissa had consumed him. There's that word consumed again. That he helped pass out flyers, that his dad made multiple trips to California, that yes, his dad enlisted the help of NASCAR by putting her picture on a hood of a NASCAR vehicle. He went to that race. He admitted knowing that she was missing and she was featured on the John Walsh show. He said that he thought his father was going overboard to find Alissa and that he should be focusing on his daughter Sarah. Now he couldn't remember saying these things, but he said, if you say I said them, okay, I said them. Okay. He also said back in his interview that she did not make great choices, that she had that she didn't have many inhibitions, and that she was not terribly smart, that she had no plans for college. Now, on recross or redirect, the prosecution said, you didn't see her grades. No, I didn't see her grades. He said, most of the stuff that I said during that interview, and this is the same thing Sarah said, is stuff that my dad told me. Yeah. And how did he learn about her going missing? His dad called him and told him, and he went over to the house and didn't see anything in disarray. And he said he helped pass out flyers. He contacted all the friends that he knew that might know Alissa to see if they had heard anything, and nobody had heard anything. So then the next person on the stand was James Turney. Now he is one of the 3 boys that Mike brought into the marriage with, whose mother was elsewhere. Barbara, the one that died in 93, was not his mother. But she was his mother for 10 years. Yeah. His father married her in 83, and then at that point in time, he was 12 years old. So this became his mother for the next 10 years until she passed away. He's now working as an IT consultant in Oregon. And how he made his way to Oregon. I love Oregon. It's expensive now. Yeah. Okay. So same thing with the interview. He gave an interview to the police in 2007. And this is where it came out that, because he told people in the interview that his father had told him that these 2 members of the IBEW union are the ones that murdered Alissa. He described Alissa as being stubborn, confrontational, and the most difficult of all the siblings. Okay. And then they went through, the whole thing. Did you say this to the police? Did you say this to the police? Did you say, yeah. But it wasn't as revealing as what John had said. So some of the things he said was that he learned about that she was missing because he still lived locally at the time that she went missing. Not living at home, but still lived locally. He learned that she was missing. His father told him, and he also went over to the house and didn't see anything in disarray, no blood. But he said, this house was much more cluttered than when I grew up there. So he said it would be hard to tell if anything was in disarray. Looking at my craft room, I can relate. So that is where we ended yesterday, except that there was one more witness, another friend of Alissa, who took the stand later on in the afternoon, and I will listen to that and bring you that tomorrow. But man, can you believe all these improvised explosive devices this guy had? Oh my word. The jury is probably never going to learn that. And here's why, because this was all after Alissa was murdered, went missing. Like, just did he just lose his mind? I don't know. I don't know. So I'm gonna keep doing more research because I just think this guy is like, it's fascinating, the whole backstory. But what I'm a little disappointed about is, having heard now Sarah on several different podcasts where she's interviewed, she was very vocal about believing that her father had something to do with the disappearance of her sister. That personality did not come out on the stand. When she took the stand, she was very timid and meek and soft spoken, and she's waited years and years and years and given interviews all over social media about the disappearance of her sister, and then she gets on the stand and she's like, I don't know if she was nervous or she wasn't allowed to say what she wanted to say, or I don't know, but just didn't even seem like the same person. Not as vocal as she is on social media. I don't get it. Okay, so I'm still looking for the smoking gun. I'm looking for it, guys. I'm looking. Can't find it. Okay, so far what do we have? He moved across the street. Shortly after she went missing, he took all of her things and got rid of them. He bought a brand new truck that was identical to the truck he already had. That's what we got so far. Oh, we also have the fact that she allegedly called, but there's no record of that phone call, even though he kept phone tapes of phone conversations going back into the 70s, and no videotape. Yeah, no videotape. Even though every time he would leave the house, he would turn on the video recorder. So you would have seen her, when he dropped her off after school, after he picked her up early, they went and got something to eat, and he drops her off at home. Did he forget to turn on the camera? Did he get rid of the footage? I don't know. That's what we have so far. So what am I doing today? I am working on this Great Escape painting. I'll show you what I have done so far. I can't lift the whole thing up because it's so much stuff under here, but I am going to be putting it aside so I can get the watercolor painting out for tonight and Craft With Me Wednesday. That'll be at 7 p.m. I keep moving it forward a little bit. I think 6 and 6:30 is too early. So I'm going with 7 p.m. tonight. 7 p.m. Don't forget, if you show up early, 7 p.m. Central Time, which is 8 Eastern and whatever it is, 5 over in Vegas. Tia, she'll probably still be working. Anyway, so here's what I have so far. Here's some of the grass. Where's the gnome? The gnome is upside down, but here he is. There's his nose. There's the gnome. There's my sisters. Yeah. So it's coming along. I'm sort of bouncing around the painting, working on different parts of it. So I would say probably halfway done. Yeah. It's not taking that long. It's a pretty easy. It's a round versus square. It's a round painting. I haven't done a round one in a very long time, but I'm having fun with it. I'm. It came with an enhancement package from DP with Sparklers, which is Tmall, and so I'm using the enhancements. The ABs and the crystals and the things that come with it. And in fact, look at the way I'm blinging the corners. That was suggested by Tmall. Isn't that adorable? That's those quad cubes and the slivers that she sells. So I will see you tonight at either 7 o'clock or I'll see you tomorrow on Crafting and Crime Daily with more of the state of Arizona versus Michael Turney, the nutcase. Yep. Have a great one. Bye, everybody.